Today we're going to be talking all about gravers, how to fit them to the handle, how to make them the correct length for your particular sized hand, and also how to get that nice sharp cutting polished face. My name's Andrew Berry and welcome to At the Bench's YouTube channel. I've had a lot of requests from subscribers of our YouTube channel to talk about gravers, how to fit them into a handle, how to make them the right size, and also how to make sure you get a nice, sharp, correctly angled cutting face onto it. Now, when you buy a graver, and it doesn't matter what type, whether it be a flat, split stick, scorper, whatever you actually choose, they always usually come in one particular length. And a lot of people think, well, that's the length that I need. I get a handle, and there are lots of different shaped handles. This one is a round handle, as you can see. You can get some then that are extra long, like this. This has a bit of a flat on the edge here, as you can see. And also there's like a mushroom type short one like this. These are ideal because they just lie flat upon the bench and they don't roll around as this one will once I've done it, as you can see. Right, so what you need to do, you need to fit the graver into the handle, whatever handle you want. It doesn't really matter what handle you choose, it's whatever feels right in your palm. A little rounded one like this is ideal. If not, one of these little mushroom ones are ideal as well. Whatever is out there, they're pretty much all the same. Some people do have a preference. So you always have a tang. So this is the tang at this end here. This is the actual graver. This part, the tang, is like a file basically, where you have the tang goes into the handle. Now, there's always this little metal ferrule edge that goes around the gravers, and that's the same as you've got on them all here. And that is to stop the wood from splitting. So what we need to do, first of all, is to get this graver into this handle. Now, if you had a graver with a flat on it like this one here, I would always try and put that so when the graver is down, the graver is in the correct position. So in this case, I've got a graver here. You can just about see that there. Nice angled face here. So I would always try and get it so the flat portion here is actually in that direction there. So when the graver is down, it's in that particular position, just like that. So, first of all, we need to heat up this end. This part of the graver here has been heat treated, which is correct, but this part here hasn't. You can just see a little edge here of where the heat treatment has stopped and they've polished up the graver. So first of all, what we need to do is to make sure that the hole in the graver here, well, there is a hole, basically, a little small hole here. If the tang is really large and you've got quite a big graver, well, then what you may need to do is just drill this hole out slightly so the wood doesn't split when you hammer the handle onto the graver. Now, I've got a little vise by the side of me here. You do need a vise. You do need a way of holding this graver whilst we heat the end. And when this is red hot, we will then put the handle on top. And as we hammer down, the tang will be burning away the wood. You get lots and lots of smoke coming up. It'll be a right smelly job, this. Do it in a well-ventilated room. And then the graver then will be attached to the handle. Never feel inclined to make a large hole in the handle so the tang goes in nice and easily. It has to be a nice, tight, close fit. And that's the reason why we heat up the end when we hammer the handle on. So first of all, we need to put the graver into the vise. Try and get that completely upright and make sure that the graver is not resting on anything as well. Make sure that's nicely in place there. Make sure that's nice and vertical like that there. Lovely. Okay, we need to get the handle ready because as soon as this tang gets really red hot, we need to start hammering this into position. So grab yourself your mallet or a hammer, and then we can start to hammer the handle on once it is bright red. Get a nice big torch for this because you've got to heat this up. A small little handheld torch like this is not really going to get up enough heat. So let's just get this going. Heat this up. The vise also acts as a bit of a heat sink, so the heat doesn't travel too far down the graver and softens it. To play the heat alarm, bring it down to the bottom a little bit here, because that's going to take a little bit more heat. You can see the nice colour of orange coming upon this. Nearly there. Once it gets to a nice bright red cherry colour, turn off the flame, get the handle, put the tang in the hole, and start to hammer that down. And as you can see, it does produce a lot of smoke. Take it out of the vise. You may want to just wipe it down a little bit. So that now is our graver securely fitted into the handle. But as you can see, it's massive. It's far too big. Some people will think that's exactly what you should do and that's how you should start using your graver. But as you can see, when it goes into your hand, it's just far, far too big. It sticks out far further than what it actually needs to. You can see the gravers that I've got here are all pretty much a standard length, as you can see here, with the exception of this one, it's just that little bit too long. So if Joe Bloggs came into the workshop here, these gravers may be a different size for him. He may have a bigger hand, which means he would need a slightly longer graver, or perhaps he's got some very small hands and short fingers perhaps, and these gravers may be too long. But if I put this one by the side of here, you can see actually how long this one is, and this one is far too long. So how do you know what size you need to make a graver? So what you need to do first of all is to look at the size of your hand, okay? And where does the actual ball part of the engraver go? So the graver goes into the hand here, and it comes into this little area just by here of where we need to engrave. Now, that is the best place. The ball of your palm of your hand here sits nicely with the graver here. Now, this is much, much too long. As you can see, it sticks out too far away from my finger, whereas these will actually come in, and these are absolutely gorgeous. And you can see you can come along and engrave, you've got complete control over the graver. So how long do we need to do it, and how do we actually shorten it? You'll notice now when the graver goes into your hand, it feels nice, it feels good in this part of the hand here, but we've got too much coming over the end of our finger. And the idea is what we need to do is to have the graver in so the tip just really comes to the end of the finger. This is a fraction short. I've had this for many, many years now. So put this into the palm of your hand in this sort of position where the graver is going to go. Put it in nice and comfortable. Just sort of bend your finger around in this way here. Get yourself a little Sharpie and a little mark there already. Just prepared that, and we'll just put a mark along here. So that now is the correct length of where the graver needs to go. It goes into the palm of your hand here, and it just comes to the end of your finger like that. All right then. So this part of the graver now is going to be wasted. We need to chop off this part of the graver. So the only way that I really know how to do this safely is, again, come back to your vise, and we're going to put the graver into the vise so the pointed end is sticking up, and this is the area that we really do need to lose. Put it in, always put it in this way up, with the line that you've just marked sticking above the vise itself, like that there. Now, you must wear safety specs for this next job, and what you need to do is get a hammer, and because the end of our graver has been hardened and tempered, we need to hit it with a hammer, a metal hammer, away from you. Make sure there's nobody else in the room because they could be injured with this. Make sure you wear safety specs, and we need to hammer this tip now away from us, and the graver is going to snap right level then with our vise. So again, hit it away from you. Don't hit it towards you like this. Always hit the point away from you. This is can be very dangerous. In fact, I shall stand up for this. Here we go. Simple as that. That went, yeah, somewhere on the floor. I'll pick it up later. Now the end has been snapped off. We've got a nice crisp edge to that. And now what we need to do is to shape the end. A lot of people will simply come along and simply shape the end at like a 45-degree angle, in this sort of angle like this here. So this little section here will be cut off. But as you can see, you've got a large face that you need to keep sharp and to keep polished. So I would not recommend you just simply put a little angle onto the end of the graver like that. You can see in all the gravers that I've got here, excuse me, you have this particular type of shape here, which means only the very tip here, which is about 2 millimeters, millimeter and a half, is actually needed for cutting, or even less than that. So you've only actually got to make sure that that little face is polished and sharpened every time. If you had a large face like this, it's going to take you so much time to keep that nicely polished. It's never going to work. So as you can see in all of these gravers here, we've got this section all the way along. So that's exactly what we're going to do now to this graver. So we're going to put a bit of a 45-degree angle on the front, and then we're going to come along and cut out this particular shape that we've got there, like that there. And to do that, we're going to use a grinding wheel. You can use some mounted grinding wheels that you can put in your flex shaft if you want to. I've got a bench grinding wheel over there that we're going to use. Again, what you've got to make sure, because this part of the graver here has been heat treated and hardened, we need to make sure that we don't overheat it. So always make sure that you have a little glass of water by the side of you to dip the graver in to keep it cool all the time. If you see any color coming onto the metal, you know you've actually overheated it, and you're going to have to then reheat and re-harden the graver, but we'll come to that in another film. Let's go across to our bench there and let's just show you how we're going to grind this down. We've got our little glass of water here. This is the rough wheel on this side. On this side here is the smoother wheel. So initially we want to take away all this particular type of shape here, and we're going to use the rough wheel for that. Always use eye protection as well. And we're just going to use the edge of the wheel to take away an even amount each time. And then as you go along, you can take a little bit more off the one end. Don't be inclined to push really hard either. It's going to heat up. You don't want any color appearing on the metal. Let's carry on just shaping the ends. And now we've gone pretty much down to the end to run about, about 2 millimeters right from the very end, as you can just about see on the camera there. Now we're going to put about a 45-degree angle on the front, and now we've only just got to sharpen this tiny little tip here. So again, very careful with this. In fact, what I would suggest you do is transfer over to the final wheel now. It's not going to be so aggressive, it's not going to heat up that tip as much as what the coarse one does. Very, very careful now. We don't want to overheat the tip. It should literally only take you a couple of goes on the wheel, keeping the graver flat. If you've got a flat graver on the tool rest, very, very delicate. And now, let me have a look. That looks pretty good. Angle's a little bit steep. Let me just make that a little bit shallow of an angle. A much better angle on that now. Right, let's go back onto the bench and let's put a nice face, a nice cutting edge, a nice sharpened face onto it. Because remember, if we got a nice polished edge on the graver, that will impart a nice polished edge onto the piece of metal that we're doing the engraving onto. Excuse this is going to go on for a little while. All right then, so now we've got the graver with the preliminary angle, the preliminary, can't be really preliminary polish. Several things you can do now. You can get yourself a nice buff stick, a nice fine buff stick, perhaps a 600 grit, something like that. And you can do this by eye. You can come along with the graver on the stick itself, or if you want to put a piece of glass down and a piece of emery paper on the top of that, you can do. And then you can get the graver and get that 45-degree angle. Make sure the graver now is completely vertical and draw back the graver at the same height, the same angle. And always do it so you're drawing away from the cutting tip. Then you can just double check it, have a look, make sure that the edge, the leading edge here is nice and straight, and just to have a look and see what sort of a polish you're getting. You can do it that way, or if you're unsure about getting the exact angle, and don't forget, if you happen to rock, you're going to get a rounded face, and that isn't good. You can use one of these little cheapy little tools that you can get. There are lots of tools out there that you can get to help you sharpen engravers. This has a little wheel on the bottom, and the idea is you put the graver through the hole, and then you basically use the little brass screws to locate the graver in the hole. Easier said than done with this particular type of graver. Let's have a look. There we go. So the graver goes in like this, the wheel comes down on it, and you've got that. Then you need to get yourself a little, like an Arkansas block, something like this, or a short little diamond stone, and you can use this now to get the exact angle, and you can roll this part up and down on the block whilst maintaining that gorgeous 45-degree angle. You can look on this, you can look through. In fact, that's absolutely spot on first time, and now you can be sure you're going to get a nice perfectly flat angle. Again, I would always run it away from you. This is quite a fine block, this is. I've also got quite a bit more of a rough one as well here that we can use to get that first few cuts to make sure it's nice and flat. But again, come on down, nice and flat. Double check with your magnification. Make sure it's a nice even face. A little bit further. My grinding wasn't as exact as what I thought. Obviously, you won't necessarily need to use this tool all the time. It's just the initial shaping that you're gonna need. And there's quite a few, there's two different holes in here to put different shaped gravers in as well. Here we go. And once you've got that down, go on to the finer block that you've got. Double check. And that now is looking nice and even. So next thing to do is to now apply a polish to this face, because remember, if the face has a polish, it will impart a polish upon the metal, but not just the face of the graver, but also the sides as well. And if you had a flat graver, the belly needs to be polished as well. Again, you can do that on an emery paper, perhaps something like 12,000 grit, a diamond paper perhaps, but nowadays we use these types of wheels. These are called Ceradloss. You can get them in different grades. I've only got the one grade, which is the final finish, the final polish. This is Ceradloss HP, and this is the yellow, which is the ultra fine. The order code is 30001 HP. So pop that into your flex shaft. And this is where you really now have to use some magnification, for me anyway, is to get this. And what the idea is, the wheel is going to spin. Okay, it's going to spin in this direction. Then you've always got to have the graver running so the direction is pointing in the direction of the tip, away from the edge. That way the edge doesn't get blunt or anything like that. So the wheel's going to go in this direction, okay? So the tip is going to be down here. You can also do it from underneath as well. You never want to put the tip pointing in the direction that the wheel is coming from, or pointing in the opposite direction to where the wheel is going. Otherwise you'll get a blunt edge, and perhaps this may even be flung across the workshop because the wheel will sort of grab onto it, so to speak. All right, so let's get our pedal. So start off the wheel, and what we're doing is just polishing the faces on either side of this particular graver. So pretty much parallel with the wheel. Just rock it, and then on the other side likewise the same. And what we're looking for is a very little small area that is nice and shiny on the tip. You should be able to just see a little area where we're starting to polish. Do a little bit more, trying to keep the edge of the graver within about a degree or two, and we're just stroking the graver to get a nice polished edge, and that's looking really, really good. And then once you've done that, you can then pay attention to the actual face of the graver, and again with that we can come along just to put that flat, and I'm looking down on this so I can make sure I get this nice and flat and square. Just gently, gently have a look. Make sure you get an even polish across the whole face. Double check. Yep, that sounds look really good. I think from what we've got there, that is absolutely gorgeous. That is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful edge to that. Nice and shiny, nicely highly polished, with a nice, gorgeous, gorgeous shiny tip. And they say you can tell a nice sharp graver by getting your nail and just dabbing the graver into your nail. And if it holds like that, you know then you've got a gorgeous sharp graver. So that now fits into your hand absolutely perfectly. The ball fits into the palm of the hand here. The end comes round, absolutely gorgeous, and now you should have complete control when you're using the graver. There are different shapes of the gravers available. We're going to go through that in another film, but the sharpening and the shaping of them is exactly the same. You use exactly the same technique on the bench mounted grinder. If you don't have that, have one of the grinding wheels for your flex shaft. Don't overheat it. You don't want any color to come onto the tip of the graver at all. Take good care when you come down to the tip here, because the tip is really, really small and narrow, and that will heat up a lot faster than the rest of it. So pay particular attention. It's not a quick job. I think that took me about 10 minutes in total to get this shaping, but going very, very careful on the end here. There we go. That is how we fit a graver into a handle, do the initial shaping, and then the final polish. Don't forget, please, which way am I going to do this way? Subscribe If you haven't done so already, smash the little bell icon if that is something that you're into to be notified when films go live on our YouTube channel. Don't forget, please give this film a thumbs up if you like it, and don't forget, please share it with your friends. I'd absolutely love you to. So, hope you like the new surroundings, new recording studio we've actually just rebuilt and had this wall clad. Got some little crates on the wall that we're going to fill with some interesting stuff. So in the meantime, my name's Andrew Berry for At The Benches YouTube channel. Take care. I will see you next time. Ta-da.